Welcome to Let's Study Judges. Today we're going to be in Judges chapter 14, and we're going to be speaking more about Samson. Before we jump into this word, I'd like to let you know that there's a study guide available to you over on Kandi, Nicole, arise.com underneath study guides. Every single day, a study guide is available to you on the website so that you can dive deeper into the word. It's great to read the word of God, but the Lord wants us to be able to read the word of God, see ourselves in these stories and the things that he has in his word, and be able to apply these things to our life. On the study guides, there are ways in which it makes you reflect back into your own life and ask yourself some questions in relation to these stories. So I encourage you to go over to candynicolearise.com and get your study guide. Let's jump into chapter 14 today. Yesterday, we were introduced in chapter 13 to Samson prior to him even being born. We were introduced to his mother and his father Manoah. And an angel comes to them and lets them know that they're going to give birth to a son. And the father is warning in particular. First, the angel comes to the mom. The father prays for the angel to come back. When the angel does come back, it delivers the same instructions to the father. The father wanted the angel to come back because he wanted to make sure that he had everything he needed as far as knowledge on how to lead this son, this Nazarite son that would be birthed to him. So this was also showing in chapter 13 that Manoah was a man of faith, okay? So we are picking up in chapter 14 right now, and Samson now is a grown man. All right. And so Samson went down to Tishma and saw a young Philistine woman there. He went back and told his father and mother, I have seen a young Philistine woman in Tishma. Now get her for me as a wife. But his father and mother said to him, can't you find a young woman among your relatives or among any of our people? Must you go get an uncircumcised Philistine for a wife? Now, you guys, this was a total slam in the face, okay? This is what I mean. If you remember, whenever David fought Goliath, one thing that he continued to say was, you uncircumcised Philistine. And what he meant by that is that you have no relation to God. You have no inheritance to God. They were uncircumcised. They did not circumcise themselves. One thing about the Israelite people is that they needed to be circumcised. It was a sign of covenant with God. So you want to go out and get yourself a woman that is not in covenant with God. So they're basically saying like, yeah, you can't find you a wife among these women that are women of God. And so no. Samson wants what he wants, and he's a man that we will see he is led with his eyes. Okay, that's one of his weaknesses. But Samson told his father, get her for me. She's the right one for me. Now his father and mother did not know this was from the Lord, who wanted the Philistines to provide an opportunity for confrontation. At that time, the Philistines were ruling Israel. Samson went down to Tishma with his father and mother and came to the vineyards of Tishma. Suddenly a young lion came roaring at him. The Spirit of the Lord came powerfully on him, and he tore the lion apart with his bare hands, as he might have torn a young goat. But he did not tell his father or mother what he had done. Then he went and spoke to the woman, because she seemed right to Samson. So in this, we're seeing the father and mother go and arrange the marriage. This was customary in this time that they had arranged marriages, and it had to be arranged by the father and the family. Okay. So Samson is telling the father and mother, she seems right to me. This is a definitely indication of the times. As we know in Judges, the people did what seemed right to them. As we continue in Judges, we're seeing that the judges are just becoming as compromised as the people. So here we're seeing the same thing with Samson. He is led with his flesh. He's led with his desires, okay, his lust at this point for this woman. So he's doing what seems right in his eyes, what feels good to him, all right? Another thing that is a problem is that we're seeing that they're going down to the vineyard. Samson's not supposed to be around none of that at all, okay? So after that, the Spirit of the Lord comes powerfully on him, and he tears a lion like he may have torn a young goat. Samson was very strong, because personally, I don't think I could tear a goat. Okay? If a goat was presented to me right now, I don't think I could tear it apart at all. So that's just to let us know how strong Samson was, and just with his bare hands, what he could do. All right? And the Spirit of the Lord is what is empowering him to do this. But also we hear in this that this is all the Lord's plans. So even in Samson's weaknesses of his eyes leading him lustfully to this Philistine woman, the Lord is still going to use that for his benefit. So even in our wrongdoings, in our downfalls, and our weaknesses, the Lord still has the ability to use that for his benefit. It says in verse 8, after some time, when he returned to marry her, he left the road to see the lions' carcasses, and there was a swarm of bees with honey in the carcasses. He scooped some honey into his hands and ate it as he went along. Then he came to his father and mother and gave some to them, and they ate it, but he did not tell them what he had scooped the honey from the lions' carcasses. This is the second time that Samson does something and does not tell his parents. And it's both for the times is concerning the lion. Over here in verse 6, it says, but he did not tell his father or mother what he had done when he tore the lion with his bare hands. All right. This time it's saying again, he did not tell his father or mother what he had done when he scoops up the honey up out of the lion's carcasses. Okay. In verse 10, it says, his father went to visit the woman, and Samson prepared a feast. There young men were accustomed to do. When Philistines saw him, they brought 30 men to accompany him. Let me make you understand something. These 30 men were not his friends. It was like hired help to celebrate, okay? They would literally hire help to help them celebrate, make a big deal, like, oh, I'm having a party. It's almost like, you're having a party and you hire people to come to your party so that you can look like, ooh, it's a big old party and a celebration. They would literally hire help to help them celebrate, okay? So it says, when the Philistines saw him, they brought 30 men to accompany him. Let me tell you a riddle, Samson said to them. If you can explain it to me during the 7 days of the feast and figure it out, I will give you 30 linen garments and 30 changes of clothes. But if you can't explain it to me, you must give me 30 garments and 30 changes of clothes. Tell us your riddle, they replied. Let's hear it. So he said to them, out of the eater comes something to eat, and out of the strong came something sweet. After 3 days, they were unable to explain the riddle. On the 4th day, they said to Samson's wife, persuade your husband to explain the riddle to us, or we will burn you and your father's family to death. Did you invite us here to rob us? So, like I said, these were not his friends. These were hired help. And they're like, oh, so you hired us and invited us here so that you could take from us? Okay, we're going to burn you and your father if you don't figure out what this riddle is and let us know. We're going to win this bet or you're going to be burned up. All right. And these people were not making empty threats. They were serious. This was a serious threat against her life. Okay. So in verse 16, it says, so Samson's wife came to him weeping and said, you hate me and don't love me. You told my people the riddle, but haven't explained it to me. Look, he said, I haven't even explained it to my father or mother, so why should I explain it to you? She wept the whole 7 days of the feast, and at the last day on the 7th day, he explained it to her because she had nagged him so much. Then she explained it to her people. On the 7th day before sunset, the men of the city said to him, what is sweeter than honey? What is stronger than a lion? So he said to them, if you hadn't plowed with my young cow, you wouldn't know my riddle now. I'm going to stop right here. All right, you guys. So what we are seeing here, like I said, these people, they were dead serious about the fact that they were going to burn her whole family up. So the wife begins to nag him, cry, and ask him for the answer to this riddle, okay? And he cannot hold back from telling her whatever it is that she wants to know. And we're going to continue to see that with Samson, okay? That when a woman begins to nag him, he gives in and he gives the information, all right? And so he does this with this woman. He gives in, he gives the information. And so what we see over here is he says to these people, so he said to them, if you hadn't plowed with my young cow, you wouldn't know my riddle now. Other versions said, if you hadn't plowed with my heifer. That in itself tells us that Samson was not exactly ready for marriage, okay? If he is referring to his wife as a young cow and a heifer, all right? Samson was not exactly marriage material at this time, all right? So he gets really angry, all right? And let's pick up in verse 19. The Spirit of the Lord came powerfully on him, and he went down to Ashon and killed 30 of their men. He stripped them and gave their clothes to those who had explained the riddle. In a rage, Samson returned to his father's house, and his wife was given to one of the men who had accompanied him. So basically, Samson said, okay, yeah, you won the bet. He went up into town, killed 30 of their kind of people, okay, and took their clothes off of their bodies and came back and gave it to them. So you won the bet. Here you go. Then his wife is given to one of the men who accompanied him. Mind you, they hadn't consummated the marriage, but as soon as the agreement was made, that was basically his wife in that time, okay? So what the father did was basically a slap to the face. He took his wife that was promised to him and gave her to a whole nother man, basically like his best man, a man that accompanied him, all right? So a total slap in his face was done. And we are going to see in the next chapter how Samson is going to respond, because Samson seems like a man, when he get mad, it be on and popping. So tomorrow we're about to see how it's on and popping with Samson and his response to what his father-in-law did. I hope you guys are enjoying this series. Again, go over to KandiNicoleArise.com and get your study alone so that you can further study this word. I'll see you tomorrow.